So, in defeating Captain Invincible, I had won 8 badges, so now I'm here fighting the Elite Four, the Grill Master, Fire type. He actually chose my Water team, which harkens back to 2015 when I had to fight Dell, and he was using a Fire team, and I had a lot of Water types on my team. Anyway, so he's going to send in his Ninetales to start off, set the sun, bring home the fire and the flames and everything. I'm going to lead off with my Gyarados, just because I don't want to lead Pelipper. I know Pelipper's slower, but I don't want to risk Pelipper early on, and any chance that I can do to put some damage into this team is going to be great. He's going to go right for the Hypnosis, and it's going to miss, which really made a difference, I think. Because had Hypnosis hit Gyarados, then immediately he has a ton of momentum to do whatever he needs to, and that makes things very tricky. Unfortunately for me, Ninetales is faster than a +1 Gyarados, which makes me think that I must have mis-EV'd this somehow. But that doesn't matter because I do have a +1 in attack and speed, so I can sort of ride this sleep out and hope for the 1 or 2 turn wake up. His Arcanine is going to come out, and it is going to lower my attack, which isn't bad, and I know that Arcanines generally carry Wild Charge, so I'm going to, I believe I don't risk this. No, I do risk this, actually, and I go for an Earthquake. Unfortunately for me, that doesn't knock it out because of the Intimidate drop. So, I am going to lose my Gyarados here, and this is a Citrus Berry Arcanine. Again, you don't see those very much in like general competitive play, but at PBL, Arcanines tend to be pretty good. It's going to go for a Wild Charge and just knock me right out, which is unfortunate because Gyarados does put in a ton of work in this team, but, you know, my whole team kind of does. So I'm going to send in Greninja here, and this Greninja, mainly I'm just looking to revenge kill something. He's got E-Speed on there, which I also was pretty not concerned about, but I'm going to use my Protean, turn into a Dark type so that I don't have to fear any, like, weird water, fire, electric, whatever you want to consider it. So I get the knockout on the Arcanine, which is really important, I think, too, because now he doesn't have any way to neutralize Mega Pert at all when it comes in. So his Moltres is going to come in, and, you know, I probably should have been a little smarter with doing this, because obviously Moltres is going to have Hurricane. I mean, I run a Rain Moltres team. Like, I should think that, like, this being, like, his one Rain mod along with Rotom Heat, that would be that. So he's going to go for a Tailwind here in hopes to beat my Swift Swim mods, which is smart. And he's going to go for a Hurricane here on whatever was going to switch in. I stay in with Pelipper, and I barely live it, which is good, and I go for a U-turn. Obviously, it's not doing anything, but that's okay. The fact is that Pelipper is alive and there aren't any Stealth Rock on the field, so now I can go into my Azumarill, and I believe this should be a Normalium Z, but I just go right for the Aqua Jet just because it's rain, and it's a ton of damage to knock out this Moltres, so I don't have to worry about it doing anything else. And that's really good. I think that really did come in handy, especially because of the fact that Tailwind was still up. So Rotom is going to come out now, and I believe I'm just going to go for another Aqua Jet here just so I can, like, get some good damage off on it, and it almost knocks out the Rotom, but not quite. And the Rotom does, in fact, go for a T-Wave, which does, in fact, cripple my Azumarill significantly. Unfortunately for me, and I believe stuff like that happens. I wasn't expecting T-Wave, actually. I was expecting Will-O-Wisp from this, but it's whatever. So I just go for another Aqua Jet, and it is going to knock out this Rotom, which is really, really nice, because that was the other big thing I guess I was worried about, along with this guy coming in right here, this Charizard. Knowing Fire teams pretty well, I had to assume that this was a Zard Y and that it was going to go for Solar Beam, and I wasn't afraid to let Azumarill die at this point just because it's got paralyzed on it, and, you know, I have the priority, but it's not going to do a ton to anything that I want to do, so I'm just going to go for Aqua Jets here and just get as much damage as I can off on this Charizard, and this Charizard is going to go for Solar Beam and eventually knock me out. So, nothing else much there to really worry about, because Azu is down for the count, but not before putting in a ton of work for the team. So I send in Greninja again because I know I outspeed this just really, really easily, and I can go for a neutral coverage move. I end up choosing Extra Sentry just in case he decided to go into his Infernape for whatever reason. Just because that way I do hit it for super effective damage, but it didn't end up mattering in the end because Charizard does go down, which is really good. And so now Ninetales comes out again, And at this point, it's looking like I have some pretty good advantage. I still have Pelipper, I still have Mega Perk that I can work with if it comes down to it. I make the dumb mistake, though, of going into Pelipper here. I probably should have stayed in and just gone for another extra sensory. But as a result, I do give my opponent the chance to, in fact, make something happen with Ninetales in case they wanted to make a play, but they go right for the Solar Beam, so I guess things worked out alright. So I switch out and go into my Kingdra, which, again, I should have probably just Scalded here, but it's whatever, I guess. Fact of the matter is that Kingdra will be able to take this really nicely, and I can just go right for a Surf. It's the safe play. I could go for Hydro Pump, but I don't want it to miss, especially with Rain and Sun fighting. So I just go right for the Surf because I know I'll knock it out. I'm Specs anyway, so it works out really nicely. Ninetales will go down, and his last mod, Infernape, unless this Infernape is carrying Mach Punch, it can't outspeed me, and it can't do damage to me, and sure enough, it doesn't. So I end up going for the Surf, and I do take my first win here against the first Elite Four of the day, which is really, really good. I'm really, really happy about that, and all in all, great first Elite fight, good game, and yeah, now we take our team and move on to the next fight in the Elite Four, Elite 5, whatever you want to call it. Heck yeah. Alright, so here we have the second Elite fight. This is me fighting off against the Poison, member of the Poison Dark multi-battle team. Their first guy was actually out. I don't know why. So I just fought the Poison guy on my own. Now, I have to admit, this is probably my least favorite of the whole weekend, and you'll see why. It's very infuriating, and I'm using my Rock team against the Poison team, so you know, it's not a bad matchup. But this Scolipede is awful. I'm just going to put that right out there. It's, you know, Scolipede, it's Baton Pass, so I'm trying to cripple this team any way I can. So I just go right for an Encore in hopes of, like, shutting this thing down somehow, because I don't want Scolipede setting up and passing. Because if that happens, then a lot of bad can happen, especially with the various members on his team like Salazzle, Roserade, Toxicroak, and Nidoking that all really, really benefit from any kind of passes whatsoever. So I just set up a Sticky Web. I really don't know why I'm doing this. I should probably switch out into something that's like able to take this, but I don't. And he's obviously not going to switch because he wants to get as many boosts as he can so he can send them to whoever is going to be the most useful member or to receive these boosts. So I'm just setting up rocks too. I mean, I think I'm just waiting for the Encore to wear off or something. I really don't know. I just played terribly this fight, so I apologize for that in advance. So I switch out my Shuckle and I just go right into my Tar. And this is Megatar too, so it's not like it can't hit for anything. So I really don't know why I didn't, yeah. So at this point, like, I should just not bother setting up, and I should just go right for a Stone Edge, because the Encore is ended, and it's at, like, +5 at this point in speed. But no, being the dummy I am, I decide I'm gonna Mega, and I'm gonna go for a Dragon Dance, because, you know, I can set up along with you, I guess. But no, because this thing also has Iron Defense, so it's literally turning into frickin' this thing that's not fun to play against, and Stone Edge is a thing that, honestly, like, had I, you know, if it connects a second time, it's great, but, you know, it happens to happen that Scolipede is now at +6 speed, and if it wants to, it can just Baton Pass out here, because it's not going to live. So that's exactly what it does. It just goes right out into the Roserade. Now, you'll see that going for Stone Edge here is not the right call at all, even with Sticky Web. So Stone Edge is going to miss. And we're going to count all the times that stuff misses against this Roserade, because this Roserade's going to go for Giga Drain, and with no special attack boosts and Sandstorm still being up, I can actually live these hits. It's just a matter of, like, doing damage. So I'm going to go for the Earthquake, and the Earthquake misses. And I'm confused because, like, what? Earthquake doesn't miss? That isn't normal, right? So I switch out my Tyranitar, and I just go right back into my Shuckle and try to go for, like, an Encore here, because Dazzling Gleam is going to come out, and I should be able to live it just fine as a Shuckle, and it's a crit. Like, that, the fact that that's a crit really says that I should be able to live it fine. So it's going to go for a Shadow Ball here, and, like, to do some damage to me. And like, I go for an encore here, so it's locked into Shadow Ball, so that I can switch in with Tar again and maybe like do something here. But unfortunately for me, like, or no, I go into Nihilego here, and like with the special, it's got good special defense, it's got good speed, it's got good special attack. So like, you know, I'm not terribly worried because this thing should be able to live just fine. But of course I get the special defense drop, so that's another bit of hacks. And the Shadow Ball is going to come out again, so I'm definitely not going to be able to live 4 hits by this, only 3 instead. Especially because my special defense drops again. So I go for a Sludge Wave, and it misses. Like, do you understand how frustrating that is? Because now I've lost my Nihilego. 4 of my attacks have missed in a row. A crit happens, not that that matters. And like, this thing is at +5 attack, or +5 speed. The Encore just wears off. So I go to my Rhyperior, hoping for something to happen. But of course, Rhyperior's got crap special defense, so it's not going to do anything. It's going to die, like, in 1 hit. Because, like, you know, that's what Rhyperior does. Like, at this point, I'm running out of options fast. I probably should have gone back into Tar and hoped for the best or something. But no, I go back into Shuckle because I think, okay, I just need to Encore this again. But this whole time, I'm thinking, like, it goes for a Solar Beam. Like, and I just go for Encore, and it misses. Like, what? That doesn't happen, right? And so Solar Beam comes out, and it's going to hit me. Not for too much, but it's still going to do a decent amount, especially because I'm that. And so I go for an Encore, and now it hits. So now Roserbraid is locked into Sunbeam, or Solar Beam. And, like, he could switch out, but then he'd lose all his boosts and give me a chance. But, of course, I'm going to stay in with my Shuckle like an idiot and go for a knockoff. And wouldn't you know, this Roserbraid is holding a Bright Powder, which is freaking horrible, and I hate that so much because now it basically, like, screwed me out of, like, 5 hits in a row. And that's not including the hacks and stat drops that I have. So that was super annoying. So in my last ditch effort, I go into my Omastar. I'm thinking, okay, if I just set up on the Solar Beam, it's great. And like, so I'll go for a Shell Smash and everything will be great. I'll outspeed it. But no, of course, I forget that it's +5 speed, and the Shell Smash is basically going to further ensure my defeat. So that was a huge misplay on my part. I probably should have just gone for an Ice Beam there to just knock it out and give myself any opportunity. But no, I just have to choke and let myself get killed basically by this Solar Beam here. And, well, this was just one big choke of a fight, and it was incredibly disappointing to just have this fight in general. This is a Sash Terrakion, but it's also at this Roserbraid's at +2 defense, and I'm down to 2 mods, and he's got all 6 still. So it's not like even if I knock this out, he can just go right back into his Scolipede and set up everything again. And so I go for an Earthquake here because, like, what else am I going to do? It's not going to do a ton because it's Grass type. I mean, look at that. That's a +2 defense, and it's just not a good fight. Not a pleasant fight whatsoever. This is why, like, you know, people say, like, oh, evasion isn't bad or anything, like, but not once did I even consider that, like, evasion would be something that I'd have to take account of in that fight, and I guess, you know, I probably should have at some point, but never, not one other leader in this entire thing used, like, Bright Powder or anything of the sort, and so it was, like, one of those things where, oh, crap, I didn't even think about this being even possible, and my dumbass goes for Dragon Dance here. Like, why didn't I just go for a Fire Punch? That's so stupid. This game was just one collection of horrible plays after another, and I'm just like, you know what? Take the L, come back tomorrow, fight this guy, win. And we're gonna just roll with that. And yeah, so that was the fight. It's pretty disappointing considering I didn't even get to fight a Toxapex. Yeah, good game. Alright, so this next fight I have was against Pending, the 90s cartoon character person. Mark's a really good friend of mine outside of PPL. He's really cool, really smart. He used to do triple battles, but now he just does doubles because triples no longer exist. But his theme is really cool, and I really like it a lot. So unfortunately, I can't use monotype teams, so I have to bring my rain doubles stuff. Excuse me, it's pretty good. So he's going to send out Abu and Goku. Obviously, Goku is the Mega Manetric that's going to come out of there real quick and nice. And my Pelipper is going to set up the Drizzle. It's going to be a pretty straightforward doubles match for me in terms of what I'm going to be doing. I bring back my Pelipper, though, just in case the Mega Manetric does decide it wants to do something. And I want to have Pert out there ASAP, just so I can, like, blast off earthquakes and everything. The Infernape's going to go for the fake out onto my Coco, and Main is going to go for an overheat also onto Coco. But luckily for me, Main is going to get that special attack drop, and it's in the rain, so it didn't really do much. Infernape's going to go out there, and Keldeo is going to come in, which is actually really nice for me, though I realize now that Manetric beforehand had Lightning Rod, so in the theory, I couldn't have actually touched that Keldeo had it not Mega Evolved. But now that it has Mega Evolved, my Pert is now going to be at -1 attack, so that's a great strategy on my opponent's part to start off the thing. Fortunately, though, Mega Pert is pretty good. I mean, look at those arms. It's strong. It's hit hard, and it's great. So Coco's gonna go protect here, and I'm just gonna go right for an earthquake. I don't even care. I'm just gonna fire one off because Infernape was in there to start off, so naturally, like, it would have probably done a good amount to Infernape, and it's definitely gonna do a lot to this Mega Manetric here. In fact, it is almost gonna knock it out, but not quite. And you can thank that to the Intimidate. So the thing about Coco going for Protect, though, is that Volt Switch doesn't work either. And out comes the Brave Little Toaster, and I love that name. It's so good. So my Pert's going to go for a Protect here, just on Keldeo's Icy Wind or something along those lines. And I'm going to go for a Dazzling Gleam here with Coco just to knock out that Keldeo, because I really don't want to deal with it. So Keldeo just goes down really easily. I'm really glad that didn't do more, and that was a really good turn for me. So Street Shark's going to come out, so Garchomp's out here. And now my Pert is going to go for an Ice Punch onto this Garchomp here, and that's not going to quite knock it out just because, again, the -1 really makes a difference. But I do go for a Volt Switch onto the Brave Little Toaster, Rotom Heat here, and that's to send in something. Oh, and I do get a crit, which is unfortunate for my opponent, but it does activate his Citrus Berry. So in the end, you know, it's kind of went either way with things, and, you know, that's how it goes. So I send in my Scrafty here to get an Intimidate off on the Garchomp, just in case something were to go about, whether this is like an Outrage Dragonium set, or if it's just going to spam Earthquake. And wouldn't you know, it does end up spamming Earthquake, and I was very smart to get Coco out of there when I did, because obviously Coco would have gone down in this case. But it doesn't do much, and yeah, so yeah, and if double targeting Coco was a very serious thing. So the Garchomp's going to go for a Protect here, which is a smart play on my opponent's part. And my Scrafty is going to fake out that Garchomp, in fact, so that it wasn't going to be able to get off the Earthquakes. And then I go for a Waterfall onto the Rotom Heat, and that does knock it out. So that's a really good turn for me, because now I have momentum once again, in that he's going to send out his Blitz, which is the Zydog, and I still should be able to handle most things just fine. In fact, Ice Punch from either from Swampert on either Zydog or Garchomp is going to do a huge amount, and I just knock out Blitz the dog just right there. So really good turn for me on that point. The Garchomp is going to go for the Poison Jab onto my Pert, which isn't that bad, and I just go right for a Drain Punch on Chomp to sort of knock it out right there. So Scrafty putting in a ton of work, really helpful. Pert, even with -1, is still doing really well as well. So now his last two Pokemon, I believe, again, are the Mega Manetric, Goku, and the Infernape. And so we're back to sort of where we started, more on his side than mine, but whatever. And now Swampert's at -2 attack, so at this point I'm fine with just letting it die. And the Scrafty's at -1, so I want to bring Scrafty back, and I'll just go right back into Pelipper, just as like sack fodder more than anything. In case, yeah, and the Infernape just sort of fakes out. And the Manetric is actually going to go for a Volt Switch onto my Pelipper, which is actually really unfortunate for me, and had I not switched to the Pelipper, would have lost my Rain, but it's no big deal. So my Volcarona is going to come out now, and it can clean stuff up nicely. It is running Hurricane, obviously, so that's good. The Mega Manetric's going to Protect, and I was actually going to go for a waterfall onto it, and then my Volcarona is going to get my Pert's getting targeted with the close combat, which is fine by me since Volcarona doesn't take any damage, and I can easily handle whatever this Infernape wants to do. So I just go for a Hurricane here onto this Infernape, and that is going to knock it out, which is really good for me. So now I'm down, he's down to 1, there's no more rain. I just go right into my Scrafty, and I can basically fake out and win. And I get the Intimidate drop just to sort of prolong the fight, but basically I just fake out, and I go for a Protect just so that if something weird happened, it didn't happen. I just go for a fake out, and I win. So that was a great fight. I always love fighting Mark. He's really good at what he does. He's really good at making theme teams and everything. So yeah, that was a good fight. He was not an elite. He was just a regular gym leader, and I was just waiting around. The next fight, though, I do fight yet another elite, so that's good. Anyway, GG.